to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? We are hitting the recap of UFC Vegas 66. We'll cut to the chase. Unfortunately for me, it was an unprofitable night for the teller. In fact, it was one of my worst nights of the entire year, which, interestingly enough, the last event of the year, we go 0 for 3 and we lose 8 units. But fortunately enough for me, we are recapping another profitable year. We profited north of 50 units on the year. So although we lose 8 units here, I'm not happy about that. It was another profitable year and I feel great about that. I'm going to have an episode coming to you guys. We're going to recap the entire year from a betting perspective. We're going to be going over everything from January all the way down to December. It was another great year. Back-to-back years profiting north of 50 units. I don't take that lightly at all. Those are major numbers and I feel great about that. But again, this past Saturday was not a good fight card for me. We're going to be talking about the official plays we targeted, where we went wrong, and overall how this card went. We'll be doing some matchmaking. You guys know we're going to be matchmaking all the winners of UFC Vegas 66, and you guys comment below. Let me know how you guys did from a betting perspective, and let me know what you guys thought about some of these controversial decisions and whatnot. And again, I feel great about 2022. I hope you guys all had a great year betting. Hope you guys are up on the year. As long as you're in the green, you're good. And if you're north of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 units, you're doing your thing. So good for you guys. All right. So we're going to jump to the first fight on the card, which was Sergey Marazov defeating Journey Newsome, which was an official play of mine. It was part of a two-team parlay. So obviously the other leg didn't come through. We'll get to that fight in a minute. But Sergey Marazov went out there. He handled business, used his wrestling to really nullify Journey Newsome, solidified takedowns. I had him winning all 3 rounds. 2 of the judges did give 1 round to Newsome. Newsome, counter striking from the outside a little bit, but not up to par with his takedown defense. And Sergey Marazov took advantage of that. We've seen Marazov do this before. This is what I was expecting in this fight. That's why I threw it in the leg. I felt very good about this matchup here. But I will say this. Sergey Marazov, he's 33 years old now, and now he's putting himself where he's going to be in a situation to be fighting guys towards the top of the bantamweight division, and I think he's going to be in trouble as he moves towards the top. I'm not completely sold on him. He has good wrestling, good timing on the takedowns and whatnot, but his striking's just really not there, and I think that when he fights some of the top guys in the division, he's going to run into some trouble. He's 33 years old, so he doesn't have an extreme amount of time. And I think he should be barking up the rankings for a decent fight here. Jonathan Martinez is a fighter that they've been continuously slow playing. I wouldn't be surprised if they match him up with Jonathan Martinez. Montel Jackson's a fighter that stands out to me too. Montel Jackson coming off that victory over Julio Arce. That fight was very recent. I'm going to be matching Marazov with Montel Jackson here. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see Montel Jackson stay active. He's had issues with staying active in the octagon, and I'm hoping he jumps right back in there. Both men just fought around the same time frame, signed them up to fight each other, and I think it'll make to be an exciting fight. I think Montel Jackson will make Marazov work much harder for those takedowns, and I could see Montel Jackson making this an exciting fight on the feet. I would like to see that fight. If I'm showing my cards, I'm edging Montel Jackson there. And that's the fight I want to see. You guys let me know what you think about that matchmaking or that match, and let me know what you guys think there. If there's someone else you see that makes a little bit more sense, looking up the rankings a little bit, let me know there too. I mean, there's a lot of exciting fights that you could do in this division. Again, the bantamweight division, one of my favorites, without a doubt. And so again, the first leg kicks things off, but the other leg ain't going to come through. Manil Cape defeats David Dvorak. Manil Cape looked explosive. He's now on a 3-fight winning streak. And, there's a fight that definitely stood out to me. First and foremost, I would love to see the rematch of him and Matheus Nicolau, but that's not the route that I'm going to go. It wouldn't necessarily be fair to Matheus at this point in time. He's been doing his thing, and you guys already know there's a fight that I want to see of Matheus next, and that's Matheus Nicolau versus Pantoja, 2 fighters that very much remind me of each other. The fight that's going to be standing out to me here from Anil is the fight with Brandon Royval. You put Brandon Royval and Manil Cape in the cage together, that fight is going to be absolute fireworks. That's a fight that makes so much sense. They're both at the top of the division right now. the victor of that fight would really be pushing their way towards the top. And most importantly, I think they're really both men are carving names for themselves in the game. They're carving out a deep name in the game from an entertainment standpoint. So I would love to see that matchup. Both men on a 2-fight winning streak. They've been doing similar type of work in the UFC, right? 2 wins, 2 losses, but fighting upper echelon fighters. That's the fight I want to see. I'm pretty sure you guys agree with me there. If you don't, let me know what fight you want to see next for Cape. But I think that's the fight that makes sense. In the next match, we had Fakharov taking out Bryan Battle. I did pick Bryan Battle to win this fight. No official action here, but Bryan Battle was a slight dog. I thought that he could have gave Renat some trouble by stuffing the takedowns of the Russian, who does rely on his grappling very much, but we see that he has some power and he's getting comfortable on the feet as well. Bryan Battle was just a little bit overmatched in that fight there. And he was roughed up, man. Bryan Battle was roughed up. You see him get slammed down here. And you take a look at the judges' scorecards. 2 judges scored this fight 30-25. I mean, Battle was roughed up pretty badly here. The other judge just refusing to give any 10-8 rounds, just 30-27. He doesn't believe in those. Battle was hurt bad in the 3rd round. It was a learning experience for Battle, and this was a fight where we actually got to see that Renat is the real deal. If you remembered, coming into the UFC, he had a very padded record, and then he went in, he defeated Andreas Michailidis. That wasn't necessarily enough for me to be a firm believer. The dominance that he just produced over Bryan Battle, that does start to catch my attention, and for me to actually say, okay, wait a second, this guy might be the real deal, the gladiator here, 21-2. We know he surrounds himself with some solid training partners. 31 years old, he's in the prime of his career, and I'm excited to see how he branches off this victory. So, let's go pull him up on the Tapology Worldwide Rankings, where we will see that he is, Renat currently ranked 39th. He's now 2-0 in the UFC. And like I said, 31 years old. So, I mean, not extremely young, but not that old. I mean, we can take our time with him. You do not want to see Kevin Holland versus Renat, because you guys know what's going to go on there. And all you Kevin Holland fans are going to be very disappointed when he loses, 3 in a row? You got Ian, the future Gary, who's been tearing things up. He's 10-0. Don't think that's the route that the UFC is going to go there. Michael Morales, a young and rising star as well. These fights don't really make the most sense to me. Now, a fight that I do think makes some sense, and a fight that I could see the UFC producing, is the Jeremiah Wells versus Renat Fakharov fight. Just 2 warriors, 2 gladiators. I think that's a fight that would really produce some entertainment, and that's the fight that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, you can't just rush Renat all the way to the top of the division right here, and he has to prove himself. He needs to string off some victories here. Jeremiah Wells has been doing his thing as well, defeating Court McGee, had that victory over Blood Diamond where he was able to just out-grapple him, kind of a layup fight. The big victory over Warley Alves in his UFC debut. He's 3-0 now. I think if Jeremiah Wells can go out and defeat a guy like defeat a tough Russian like Renat, I think that really starts to show how well-rounded he is and how dangerous he is. That's the fight that I want to see. I want to see Jeremiah Wells versus Renat Fakharov, the gladiator there. Rafa Garcia defeats Mahashate. We had the Mexican versus the Chinese fighter. This was a cool fight, and this fight definitely produced. What an absolute war it was. Real quick, we'll scroll over, but a lot of bloodshed. I mean, you see both these guys paying respect to each other, and it was an absolute war. But Rafa Garcia was in control of this fight. This was the smallest play that I had on the board. I did have a 1.5 unit stab on Mahashate, who was an underdog. Let's put things in perspective. I was taking another underdog stab on Mahashate. I took him in his last fight, and he came through for me. Had that big knockout victory over Steve Garcia, and we got him at some real legit underdog odds. He was upwards of plus 170, and he's a sharpshooter. I like the length advantage he had here, but Rafa Garcia was able to utilize the wrestling and just show, more growth in his game. Rafa Garcia is a workhorse, and we took that L there. That was legitimately that was the first loss that we took. And remember, now the first leg is on route to hopefully cashing. You would think it's going to cash, but Rafa Garcia gives us the first loss there against Mahashate. Rafa Garcia really making a buzz now in the lightweight division, in the extremely stacked lightweight division. He is in the top 50, ranked 47th on Tapology Worldwide Rankings. There's a lot of ways you can go here. Rafa Garcia, real quick. Rafa Garcia is now 28 years old. This kid, he's still young. Anyone under 30, I'm going to refer to as a kid here. Rafa Garcia has a lot of time to grow. We don't necessarily have to throw him into the fire, in my opinion. I think that you can go a couple different ways. And a fight that makes sense to me. I'm not going to push him up the rankings too far. I'm going to stick right around the same frame here, and I'm going to match him up with Ludovit Klein, who is ranked just above him at 45th in the Tapology rankings. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He just defeated Mason Jones. That was a big fight for him. Had the Devontae Smith victory before that. Ludovit Klein is jacked up. He's ripped. He's been he's been showing that he's a more well-rounded fighter than maybe some of us thought initially. Has that explosive knockout power. I think Rafa Garcia versus Ludovit Klein would definitely be an entertaining fight. So that's the fight that I would like to see. I think it makes sense from a variety of angles. And let me know what you guys think about that. I do not want to throw Rafa Garcia to the wolves just yet, and I think that he has time to work on his craft. He's 3-3 right now. He's a 500 fighter. Needs to show a little bit more. Let's not go crazy now on Rafa, although he's doing some very good things. Syed Nurmagomedov takes out Syed Cockroach Manov. Now this is a fight that it's a little bit of a frustrating fight for me. First off, you guys remember on the breakdown video, I told you guys that I was a little bit on the seesaw with this fight. I was back and forth on who I was going to pick. And of course, I'll tell you guys the truth, man. When I first saw this matchup, I was actually going to be targeting Syed Nurmagomedov as an official play. You guys know I've been very high on Syed Nurmagomedov. I saw that the line was essentially a pick'em. And anytime I can get Syed at pick'em odds, I'm keen to jumping on that. But the more I jumped into the tape and the more I looked into Syed Cockroach Manov, there was a lot of things I liked about him. I started breaking down some of his wrestling tape. I was looking into the aspect of him taking his UFC fight on short notice, getting the finish late in the 3rd round, then having a full camp in his next match, absolutely destroying a fighter that I have a lot of respect for in Ronnie Lawrence. Okay. And then, I thought there would be an edge for him to use his wrestling here. I've seen Syed Nurmagomedov kind of pushed up against the cage at times and struggle a little bit there. And Cockroach Manov went out there and he took the 1st round, but he was leaving his neck out a little bit. We've seen some wrestlers do that at times. Eventually, of course, he gave up the neck and he was submitted via guillotine choke in the 2nd round. And you guys know if someone knows one or two things about the guillotine, it's the teller. A lot of people have argued they want to change the name of the guillotine to the teller team because I've just patented that move throughout the years, as you guys see in my intro video. And, it was tough to take another L there. There was a 2.5 unit loss on Syed Cockroach Manov. So at this point in time now, we are down 4 units and we have a 4-unit parlay on the move, which I thought we had in the bag here. We jump right into that fight. Oh, excuse me. Let me match my boy Syed up real quick before we jump into that next L that I took, which you guys know what we're going to be talking about. Syed Nurmagomedov, he's ranked 12th on Tapology Worldwide Rankings, and he has proven that he's a dangerous fighter now with the submission skills that he possesses. We've seen him go out there, sub guys. We saw him submit Cody Stamen, pulling off another sub here. We know he's a nasty kicker, a nasty striker. And, now we take a look up. We take a look up on the rankings, and there's a fight that without a doubt stands out to me, and that is Ricky Simone, who is coming off that big victory over Jack Shore. He is on a 5-fight winning streak. Syed is on a 3-fight winning streak. He's won, what do we got here? 6 of his last 7 fights, dating back to 2017. He's a dangerous man. The lone loss coming by way of Jaime Barcelos, a talented fighter. I think Syed and Ricky Simone is a fight that makes a lot of sense, and you guys know it would be an entertaining matchup. That's the fight that I want to see. Let me know if you guys agree with that. I think that the winner of that would really start to push their way towards the top, and I think that Syed is deserving of that. So, all right. So now we go to the last official play for UFC Vegas 66, as far as I'm concerned, and that was the leg of Jake Matthews paired with Sergey Marazov. Jake Matthews, I want to talk about this fight here for a second, man. Jake Matthews, in his last fight, looked absolutely amazing, all right, against excuse me here, the victory over the Portuguese fella, Andre Fiallo. Went out there, finished him. The striking looked so crisp. You guys know I've been a big fan of the way that the UFC has groomed Jake Matthews, letting him just slowly develop in the octagon throughout the years. I felt that Jake Matthews has really come to as of recently after that last performance that he had, coming into a matchup here against Matthew Semelsberger, who had a very tough performance, an official play of mine against Alex Morono that he dropped, kind of gassed a little bit. Maybe, in my opinion, at the time in that fight against Morono, showed that he was kind of getting away with being an athlete a little bit more so as far as his pro MMA experience goes, compared to certain guys like Morono. And I thought Jake Matthews was in that same box, guys that have maybe been around the game a little bit longer, and guys that have been a little bit more proven, more time in the octagon and whatnot. And it just wasn't the case, though, man. Matthew Semelsberger, he must have had a fire burning under him throughout this entire fight camp, because I think we've seen some major strides in this game. And not that I wasn't high on him in the past, but this was the best performance we've ever seen from him. Hurting Jake Matthews very bad in this fight. The 10-8 round in the first round, Jake Matthews was just not himself. Maybe getting tagged up a little bit obviously had something to do with that, but Matthews was not himself. Matthew Semelsberger looked phenomenal, and that would destroy a 4-unit 2-team parlay for the teller. Again, not a great night for me, but when you're up as much as we've been over the last couple months and throughout the entire year, it just doesn't hurt the same, and I don't want to make light of that, right? Because there is some people that come through and they use my official plays just for one card. Of course, I always make right on that. I'm going to make you guys profit one way or another. So you guys know there's free cards coming your way until we clean that up. But it didn't hurt as bad from my side of things. But, for people that just came through for one card, obviously I'm not happy with that. And I don't take it lightly. And I just want to make that clear. So we take a look at Semelsberger, who's currently ranked now the 21st welterweight over here, and we're gonna match him up with we're gonna make an exciting fight here with Semelsberger, because he's an exciting fighter, and there's a fight that definitely stands out to me. I want to see Jack Della Maddalena versus Matthew Semelsberger next. I think both these guys would throw down on the feet, and we would see some heavy leather being tossed around. I could see somebody getting cracked here. That's a fight I really want to see. Favor Jack Della Maddalena a little bit more so, but that performance that Semelsberger just put out there, who knows? Who knows what version of Semelsberger we're going to be seeing next, because the guy is evolving in front of our eyes, and he's a dangerous fighter. So I think that's a fight that makes a lot of sense. In the strawweight division, Corey McKenna unanimously defeats Cheyenne Vlismas as an underdog. You guys know we talked about the possible avenue for Corey McKenna to use her wrestling to defeat Cheyenne Vlismas here. We've seen Cheyenne Vlismas struggle. Not often, but we've seen her struggle at times with her takedown defense. If you remember the fight that she had against a very tough Mexican wrestler, I believe her name was Monistat Ruiz or something like that, but constantly throwing Cheyenne down with that head and arm triangle throw, holding her in that headlock type move there, and side control, kind of laying on top of her, giving her noogies, and there was potential for something like that to happen here. Corey McKenna, a very well-rounded fighter, a fighter that we've seen go out there and use her wrestling to win fights. We saw her do that on Dana White's Contender Series. She's a young fighter that's constantly growing with her game. She's put in a lot of time with Team Alpha Male. I mean, there was definitely a possibility of this. At the end of the day, I had to side with Cheyenne Vlismas because I've seen some real dangerous striking possessed by her, and there's been some time that's passed since that last loss where the wrestling was used upon her, and I thought that she would have been continuously growing over these last couple of years, and I thought we would have seen some growth there, working on her takedown defense and whatnot. And she's still a young fighter, man. Cheyenne has a lot to work on. Let's see, Cheyenne's 27 years old. She's still a promising fighter. She has that big type of power that stands out in the division. So she'll always be a fan-friendly fighter. She'll always have a name in the game as far as she just strings off a couple of victories here and there. But as far as pushing towards the top of the division, she's going to have to work on her grappling and those type of aspects of her game. So Corey McKenna, a very promising fighter. Corey McKenna, still extremely young. She's 8-2 as a pro. She's 23 years old. You guys remember the stories of her parents traveling her around the world doing like summer camps, training MMA around the world, instead of doing regular vacations like some do. I mean, she's traveling to different places to train at the gyms. I mean, that's no joke, and that's something that's always caught my attention. I have been very high on her throughout her UFC career. Dating to Dana White's Contender Series, I've been high on her, but you guys know I'm also high on Cheyenne. I think that Cheyenne is a dangerous fighter. So we were on the wrong side of things here. Many were, not many were on Corey, but we saw that potential for the victory. Corey McKenna ranked 23rd on the worldwide rankings here in the division. Still young. I do not want to see her jump up too high. I want to see her continue to string off some victories and gain some confidence and work on her overall skill set. We've already seen her defeat Vanessa Demopoulos on Dana White's Contender Series. Back in 2020. What's a fight that makes sense for Corey McKenna? I don't necessarily have to jump up the rankings, in my opinion. I wouldn't mind to jump back the rankings. If there's a fight that makes sense, there's not a lot of fights that make sense as you jump back. And there's Monistat Ruiz, who we were just talking about, who had the loss against Amanda Lemos. I wanted to kind of take a jump back, but there's really not a lot of fights that make sense for Corey Poppins McKenna. We're going to have to take a jump up, and, we're not going to go too far up the rankings here because there's a fight that I would like to see. It stands out right away. And as far as from a danger aspect, I think that it's not ridiculous, and I don't want to throw Corey into that type of situation. Polyana Viana, she's a tough fighter. She has some power. She has sub skills, but she doesn't overly concern me if I'm standing behind Corey McKenna and I'm looking to sign her up for a fight here. Give me Polyana Viana. Corey McKenna has some good submission defensive skills. I think she could avoid the sub of Polyana Viana. On the feet, it would be a fun fight. It's a fight that makes a lot of sense. Polyana Viana coming off the victory over Jinyu Frey. She lost to Tabitha Ritchie before that, but before that had a victory over Mallory Martin and Emily Whitmire. That's the fight that I want to see next. Polyana Viana versus Corey McKenna. That's a fight that makes a lot of sense. What do you guys think about that one there? All right, so after this fight, we had the fight of Michal Oliasejczak against Cody Brundage. Michal gets the first round victory over Cody Brundage. Michal Oliasejczak, I think that the drop down to middleweight was a phenomenal move. He's only 27 years old. He's 6-3 in the UFC right now. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He's undefeated, I do believe, 2-0 in the middleweight division, which, like I said, was just a stellar move in my opinion. He's so fluid with his boxing, and he really intrigues me. He's a legit fighter. All right, this isn't a guy that hits the weights. He's not overly intimidating with his frame and whatnot. He's just a talented dude, has some legit boxing skills, and there's a lot of ways you can go with Oliasejczak in this division now, as he looks to legitimize himself in the middleweight division, right? Because obviously he's been putting in a lot of work in the light heavyweight division, so he has to prove himself in the middleweight division. People don't just want to automatically give you that respect when you drop down in weight, right? They want to see you get a couple victories and prove yourself. I mean, now he's 2-0. The victory over Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage was coming into this fight, coming off a big-time knockout victory. I think that people are going to really start to respect Oliasejczak, and I expect him to actually get some big-name matches in the middleweight division. So I'm going to be scrolling up here because I think that he defeats a lot of guys that are above him. In my opinion, I really do believe that. Arman Petrosyan, a stellar striker, coming off the victory over AJ Dobson. That's a fight that stands out to me. Trying to remember if we did match up Petrosyan with anybody else after that last victory. I don't believe we have. I know we already said we want to see Andre Petrosky versus Eric Anders. So yeah, I'm definitely sticking with that fight. So you're not going to see either of those guys matched up with Oliasejczak. In my opinion, I want to see Arman Petrosyan versus Michal Oliasejczak. Two strikers. I think that'd be an awesome fight. If Oliasejczak prevails there, I think that he shows that he is a very legitimate middleweight fighter. Because Petrosyan, although he doesn't have a lot of fights under his belt in the UFC just yet, he's a fighter that everybody just threw respect out right away because we know how dangerous of a striker he is, and we see how he's grooming himself out. He's a dangerous fighter, so that's the fight that I want to see next. Drew Dober gets the knockout over Bobby Green. You got to be kidding me. Was this the most exciting fight of the night? I mean, I think I would say so. I mean, Bobby Green was having a lot of success with the head movement. He's a crafty boxer. A lot of people were picking Bobby Green here. I saw a lot of people picking Bobby Green, even though Dober was the favorite. I mean, I saw a lot of people in the comment section kind of questioning the fact that I thought Dober would prevail there. Dober was throwing absolute bombs at Bobby Green's head. This was a crazy fight because as this knockout happened, I kid you not, I was sitting there watching the screen, had a nice old big old OLED, was it 82-inch, I believe it was, an OLED in front of my face. I was over at a friend's house, and wow, it was a beautiful picture on the screen. And as I saw Bobby Green having that success, I still saw those hands so low, and I saw Drew Dober as a man on the mission throwing bombs at Bobby Green's head. And I literally saw that knockout coming well before it happened. I was sitting there, I was telling everybody, said, the knockout's coming. I'm telling you, watch. The knockout's coming. It's coming. I was sitting there saying it. Boom, it landed. It was cool. It was one of those moments, you know what I mean, where you're calling it as it happens. You see that knockout coming 30 seconds before it happened. It's just, you can't be in those type of exchanges if you're Bobby Green. You can't be in those type of exchanges with your hands that low. Yeah, you could have success for 4 minutes and 30 seconds of a round. It only takes one with a guy like Drew Dober, who throws serious power, and he's an accurate striker too. I mean, that knockout was coming. I would have liked to have seen Bobby Green. Okay, you want to keep your hands down a little bit, you want to score some points, but then circle out, maybe change some things up, maybe keep your hands up for a little bit, maybe work on your defense, because you could have maybe stole a couple rounds with the volume you were putting out, because Bobby was landing too, but you can't sit there for the entirety of the round with your hands down, just sitting up against the cage trying to bob and weave. You will get cracked, and that's what happened. And Drew Dober is an absolute phenom. You know, we talk about the fighters that have been born in the UFC. Drew Dober was born in the UFC. Mother rented out the octagon, gave birth. And he's 34 years old now. He's 12-7 in the UFC. 1-0 in Bellator. Back in 2010, he had that one fight. But he's on a 3-fight winning streak right now. He's finished his last 3 opponents. Terrence McKinney, Rafael Alves, and Bobby Green. All 3 respectable fighters in the UFC. Okay, Drew Dober, losing to Islam Makhachev and Brad Riddell. The train was derailed a little bit. But it's, we hired some mechanics and whatnot, some types of guys to fix that up. And the train is cruising right now. And now there's a big time fight on the horizon for him, as he is ranked 13th in the division. And I'm going to be matching up with a big time fight here. So let's take a look. Drew Dober, currently ranked 13th. There's so many different ways you can go. Renato Moicano coming off the big victory. That's a fight that makes a lot of sense. He called out Jalen Turner. Give him the fight that he called out. Give him the Jalen Turner fight. We got to give the man what he wants. Jalen Turner's on an absolute tear. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. He's won 6 of his last 7. Jalen Turner versus Drew Dober next. It makes all the sense in the world. The winner of that fight pushing right towards the top. How about Bruce Leroy's performance this past weekend? Gets the knockout victory over Juicy J, Julian Rosa. If there was any question marks about all the work that Bruce Leroy's been doing over the last couple of years, it wasn't necessarily his win versus loss ratio. It was maybe the level of talent of the guys that he was going out there and defeating. Maybe we wanted to see him go out there and fight a little bit of a notch above the level of competition that he's been defeating. Julian Erosa is a fighter that I do have a lot of respect for. And the way that Bruce Leroy went out there and finished this fight, just starching him with the striking there, I thought that it was extremely, extremely impressive. This is actually one of the biggest victories of his career. There's no question about it. At the point that he's at right now, Bruce Leroy has said, I believe I saw him on an Instagram live video just chatting it up. He just wants to keep on fighting. He's not looking at the end of the road whatsoever. This is a guy that takes care of himself, eats healthy, and he's just a fighter. He enjoys it. And, he's in a really good situation right now because Bruce Leroy is now, first off, he has won 6 of his last 7 fights, with that lone loss coming by way of Sadiq Youssef, who's a very talented fighter. And it was a great bounce back victory for him after losing the fight to Sadiq to come in and get a knockout victory. I think that he really made a statement here. He's 15-11 in the UFC, but remember now, he started off his UFC career very green and was kind of learning on the job to an extent. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, obviously, he's put in a lot of work throughout the years. Even as a young kid, he's been training MMA for a long time, even fighting in the streets and some of those little fun promotions. You know, I don't know, I guess you wouldn't call them a promotion, those little get-togethers where people are just fighting in the backyards and whatnot. I mean, he has a world of experience, but he was essentially learning on the job as far as fighting the best men on planet Earth in the UFC. He's now currently ranked the 18th fighter on Tapology's worldwide rankings, and he's screaming for a big match. His performances say it all. He's screaming for a big match in the division. So, just got the victory over the 17th ranked fighter. I'm looking up for him. You have to look upwards for Bruce Leroy because this is a guy that has a legit name in the game. He's been around forever. He's not necessarily that young. And I think that you have to give him a big name fight. And it's going to be tough right now because, he already lost to Sadiq Yusuf. Ilia Topuria, you guys know I want to see Ilia Topuria matched up with Paddy Pimblett. It's probably not going to happen. In fact, it's not going to happen. So, I mean, who do you match him up with next? I mean, I think you really got to go into the top 10 here. I mean, you got a guy like Movsar Evlovoyov, who's a dangerous fighter that hasn't been extremely active and still needs to prove himself a little bit more so. I could see that fight making some sense. I would like to see Movsar fight some bigger names, but maybe that could wait. Maybe Movsar has to get a victory over against Bruce Leroy and then work his way more towards the top. And Bruce Leroy's name right now is the most respected that it's ever been. So that's a fight that does make some sense to me. They're both coming off victories. Give me Movsar Evlovoyov versus Bruce Leroy, which I wouldn't think that that's something that I would be saying just a little while back. But Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy has proven himself to really have grown with his skill set. So that's the fight that I do want to see. How about Amir AlBazi getting the third round finish over the UFC newcomer Alessandro Costa? Costa had some success in the first round. In fact, I think that he won that first round there. But AlBazi really started to pick things up. And again, eventually getting that third round finish with the nasty uppercut landed, following it down to the mat, landed some solid strikes. AlBazi now showing again that he's a dangerous striker on the feet. He's a dangerous submission artist down on the mat. He's a well-rounded fighter. He's a legit addition to the flyweight division. He's currently ranked 9th on Tapology's rankings. And there's a lot of big-name fights that I would like to see him involved in. One of the only problems is that a lot of the fighters that are ranked above him are already matched up in other matchups, or some of those guys that I've talked about, there's matchups that I've made, right, that we've made when we do these recaps. So I want to see Pantoja versus Nicolau, but either of those men could be next for AlBazi, in my opinion. I said I want to see Royval versus Manil. Either of those guys could be next for AlBazi. This is a little bit of a tough one, right? Again, the matchups that I'm making are, of course, not official. I wish they were, but they're not official. So, I don't really want to give AlBazi the match with Tim Elliott, in my opinion. You could give him that. Chanel's coming off a loss. Dvorak's coming off a loss. Muhammad Makayev. That's a fight that I think that we could see. That's a fight that I think we could see. Ortega or Ulanbekov. I think we're going to have to kind of jump back as far as the MMA fortune tellers matchmaking here. Having all those guys above him already matched up, I think that's what we're going to have to do here. And I'm going to match him up with Muhammad Makayev. How about that? We're going to put Makayev to the fire here. We're going to throw him up against a legit flyweight fighter in AlBazi. That's actually a fight that makes a lot of sense. It's fun, right? Makayev wants to be one of the youngest champions ever and whatnot. If that's the case, you got to get thrown to the fire and you got to start fighting some of the best guys in the world. AlBazi is, without a doubt, that. Only tasted defeat once in his career. He's a dangerous, well-rounded fighter. Give me Muhammad Makayev versus Amir AlBazi. What do you guys think about that? Let me know what you guys think about that matchmaking there. I actually think that that's a fun fight, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts there. All right, so we'll slide up now. We're at the co-main event of Arman Sarukian versus Damir Ismagulov. Arman Sarukian handles business, mixing things up, stringing off some takedowns off of his striking. Had some success with the kicks on the feet. Damir Ismagulov, showed the skills that he possesses as well, but overall needs to work on his takedown defense. Arman Sarukian just a little bit of a different animal, and Damir was taken down multiple times in this fight. He was giving up his hips and his legs. Arman was getting deep on those takedown attempts, and he was getting him down to the mat. Arman Sarukian is the truth. he said it on the mic, and I agree with him. He said that he didn't lose his last fight to Mateusz Gamrot. You know, he's still on the whatever amount of winning streak that he should be on, and I agree with him. He's calling for that Islam Makhachev fight. He said it, and he's right about what he said. He did give Islam Makhachev his toughest test in the cage, besides Adriano Martins. Let's not forget about that. But Arman Sarukian, 19-3. He's only 26 years old. This dude's so dangerous. I'm a little upset with myself for not mixing him up in some official action. You know, you guys know I've been very high on him, and I do regret that. But we take a look at the top 10 of the lightweight division here. Arman Sarukian, coming off that victory, he needs to get a big name. You know, I would almost love it to see him run that fight back with Gamrot. You know, Gamrot coming off a loss, though. I'm sure that's not a fight that Gamrot wants. But I know Arman Sarukian would probably want that fight to kind of clear the air there. I mean, this division right here, you don't see a lot of fighters with matches ahead of them, right? Dustin Poirier is fighting a nasty staph infection. Beneil Dariush, I think that's the fight that makes sense. Beneil Dariush versus Arman Sarukian. The Armenian versus the Beneil Dariush, real quick. Is he Iranian or what is he now? Assyrian, excuse me, there from Assyria. He's an Assyrian. Sorry about that. But Beneil Dariush versus Arman Sarukian. That fight makes a lot of sense to me. And as far as Arman wanting to fight for the belt and wanting to get a fight with Islam Makhachev, let me tell you what. You go out there and you get a victory over Beneil Dariush, who's on a ridiculous win streak right now. A ridiculous winning streak. You go out there, you get a victory over Beneil, and listen, you're 26 years old. You will be fighting for the belt relatively soon after that. So go get that victory there, and then let's start talking about that Islam fight after that. Beneil Dariush versus Arman Sarukian. That's the fight that I do want to see next, and that will take us to the main event. Which, excuse me, you see some newly added matchups here, but you're gonna see. You see Arman working the body a little bit of Demir as we just recap that fight. But then we work our way over to the main event, the controversial main event. You guys got to hit the comment section below. I do want to know what you guys thought about the decision here. A split decision victory for Jared Cannonier, defeating Sean Strickland. It was a close fight. I thought that Sean Strickland edged it. In my opinion, I thought he took 3 of the 5 rounds, with the volume. But Jared Cannonier looked good, throwing a little bit more power in his shots. His boxing looked sharp as well. I thought that Sean Strickland was just a little bit more active. I don't know. He was landing a couple more shots than Cannonier during a couple of those rounds. I thought he did enough to solidify them. This fight could have easily went anyway. The slight majority of fans do agree that Sean Strickland won this fight. If you go to MMAdecisions.com, you'll see that the fans have voted. I think it was at 53%, 54% were on Sean Strickland. Compared to the 46 or whatnot on Cannonier. It was a close fight, though. This fight could have went either way. Sean Strickland had a little something to say about it, but you know what? If you didn't want to be in that situation, you should have stepped on the gas a little bit more so. You saw Sean Strickland coming out a little slow, a little bit on the back foot and whatnot. Maybe he should have kind of pressed a little bit more and let the hands go. But, I'm not completely sold on Sean Strickland's striking defense, and I think that he's going to be prone to getting knocked out in the future. I know he's a tough dude. He could take a shot and whatnot, but the way he's just kind of has his head straight up and he's kind of bobbing and weaving like this, it's just, I don't know, man. It's not a good look. And Cannonier landed with some big shots, but I could see, if Sean Strickland were to fight a guy like Israel Adesanya, Israel Adesanya is going to sniper him. We saw what Pereira did. And, Sean Strickland's a fun fighter, and he'll be involved in many more fun fights down the line. But this was a tough loss for him, and we'll see what he gets, where he goes next. We'll match up both fighters, essentially, because it was such a close fight, and some people can argue either man won. Jared Cannonier ranked 4th. Where does he go from here? He's almost 40 years old, coming off the loss to Israel Adesanya. Robert Whittaker's already matched up. You got Pereira and Adesanya coming up with the rematch. Sean Strickland's right here. Derek Brunson. Cannonier already knocked Brunson out. That's not a fight that makes a lot of sense. Jack Hermansson's coming off a loss. I think that both men are going to have to kind of drop back in the rankings as far as who they get matched up with next. I really do believe that. Derek Brunson, maybe he fights Sean Strickland next. That's the fight that I will match matchup. I'll give Strickland versus Brunson a take. I think that's a good fight there. Both men coming off losses. Both men respected. They're ranked towards the top of the division. And then I'm going to give Dricus Duplessis. We already matched him up with somebody. I mean, that's a fight that would make sense, essentially. We already have Curtis versus Duplessis, though. Duplessis. So, you know, I hate to say it, but I think that Cannonier is in a very tough situation here. I mean, I'm sure the UFC will figure out something for him, but Cannonier is in a tough situation. I don't know who to match him up with next. Maybe you give him the rematch against Brunson, or he's gonna have to wait it out. I think he's gonna have to wait out one of these upcoming matches and get the winner. Maybe the winner of, I don't know if he wants to wait that long. You know, it's gonna be tough for him. You know, the winner of a Brendan Allen versus Andre Muniz. Yeah, he's in trouble. The winner of Whitaker versus Costa. He's gonna be on the seat here, taking a seat, because I don't see a lot of fights that make sense, and he's not gonna want to rematch Brunson. So sorry to leave you guys off on a dull moment there for the main event matchmaking, but that's just what it was, and it's kind of similar to what the decision was. It was just a little bit of a stale ending to the card, but it's all right. So again, I hope you guys all had a profitable UFC Vegas 66. I hope you guys all had a profitable year. I'll have a video coming to you guys on the full year results. It's gonna be a fun video, so you guys can look forward to that. All right, guys. I'm gonna get to the rest of my day here. I got some things to do on the computer, and even though we don't have any fights coming up that soon, you guys know we're already getting on the grind for 2023, and we're already looking at those fight cards that are coming up at the beginning of the year, and we're diving into the tape already. So that's what we're about over here. All right, guys, signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.